Díomh gach duine fáilte rascadí chlorella an seo ar Cluiche. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Cluiche. It is once again the social media react series. It's episode 9 of the series on Cluiche. This one is once again sponsored by Capture Athletics. Make sure to check them out on Instagram if you haven't already, at Capture Athletics, for any sportswear, athletic wear, one of the best in the game, and they have supplied us with some lovely branded Cluiche outfits. So do make sure that you check them out on Instagram, and thank you very much to the lads for sponsoring this again. Now, obviously, the All-Ireland Championships kicked off this weekend. We had the 4 little LGFA League finals on top of that, and then we had the Allianz Hurling League final between Clare and Kilkenny as well. So what we're going to do in this series, if you're new to it, is I'm going to look at some of the biggest tweets from some of the biggest GAA personalities in the online world, if you like, and I'm just going to react to them. I'm just going to read them out, give my opinions on them, and basically engage with them. And then you engage with the comments below as well. Let me know your opinions. I might start screenshotting certain comments and including them in next episodes and everything like that. Maybe that would be a good idea to do. But yeah, let's dive in with the tweets. So we'll start off with the small ball. We'll start with hurling. And obviously there was the Allianz Hurling League final, which Clare won. And after this, look at this crowd. So smaller fish GA, that's obviously Colin Parkinson. That's a screenshot of the Clare fans. He says the whole of Clare is here. Jarlath getting them going too. Obviously Jarlath Burns, the new GA president, his speeches are absolutely electric. But basically on top of that, the Clare support, you could tell they were dying for some silverware. Like the last few years, they've had peak Tony Kelly, peak Shane O'Donnell, Aidan McCarthy, John Conlon, and just the list of players that they have is insane. To win nothing with that team would have been a tragedy. So for Brian Lohan to get some silverware in is very, very important. But as Luke said on the weekend review show, even though the crowd was massive and even though it felt like the whole of Clare was there, they will be judged on their next 2 games. Limerick at home, Cork away. You can't really start it off tougher than that. But that they've got a league title is very, very important. Now, there was some controversy over, of course, the yellow card shown to Adrian Mullen. Buff Egan here says, should it be a red or a yellow? And a lot of people were saying it shouldn't have been anything at all, that now it was a free for a shoulder, a yellow card for a shoulder and everything like that. Look, if you slow down the replay, he did catch him in the head. Did he mean to do it? No, but it's something that head injuries and concussions are so common in contact sports where you get a lot of shoulders to the head, sports like rugby, NFL, and hurling sadly does have it, especially back in the days where, they weren't wearing helmets and stuff like that. So we do need to clamp down on it. And the less contact to the head in our game, the better. So when a shoulder is high, sometimes you need to give a card for it. But then it brings back to the question of, if we were given red cards for it, should he have walked? And I think the ref kind of knew there was no real safe ground. So I think he just went in the middle and said, okay, yellow card, which can't really blame him for, in all honesty. We've got another tweet in here. Now, this is another one that was kind of a common theme across the weekend, but obviously a big congratulations to Clare before we move on. But a big theme across the weekend was the lack of tickets being sold in the Cavan versus Monaghan game. 2 tweets here to back that up. Paul Fitzpatrick says, can't believe the lack of interest in Cavan versus Monaghan. Will be interesting to see the crowd, but when you hear of loyal supporters not attending, it's striking. Condensing season and playing championship early with risk of poor weather has greatly diluted the occasion. And the big thing that I can agree with from that tweet from Paul is, like, there's no build-up. There's absolutely no build-up. There's no time to get excited for the game. There's no time to think, oh God, championship starts now in 2 weeks. It's very much rushed with the penalties, with extra time, with no replays. It's very like, come on guys, we're on a schedule here, we have to get this over with. And it feels rushed. It's felt rushed for the last 2 years. Clare Limerick in the Munster Championship was a perfect example. That game should have had a replay. It was an epic, and it would have had the whole country watching. It's just bad for promotion. It's bad for business. I don't want to get into the whole thing about it, but it is just bad for business in that sense. I don't understand why they don't do it. Now, when the game got underway, it was an absolute cracking contest. And obviously, Cavan came out on the right side of the result. We've tweeted here from Colin Park, and they said, Pádraig Faulkner, stop it. The catch on the turn and the finish. Majority of forwards cannot do this. I mean, it's absolutely an extraordinary finish on Pádraig Faulkner if you have not seen that goal. I mean, that was just a perfect shot into the roof of the net. The other goals, of course, came from Jared Smith. And on top of that, another one from Paddy Lynch as well. And the Paddy Lynch goal was a bit of a, into the back of the net, and that's all she wrote. It was very much the conclusion of the match once that ball hit the back of the net. It was, look, Monaghan got caught for pushing up the entire time. They were pushing up aggressively on Cavan, the entire time. Beggan had an outstanding game, but when you do that, you run the risk of being caught, and they were caught in that. Sticking then with the Cavan Monaghan game, there was a devastating injury to Darren Hughes, one of the soldiers, one of the absolute generals in Monaghan's golden years. Cara O'Kane says it'll be of no comfort to Darren Hughes, but if he was ever going to get injured, it was going to be through absolute fearlessness and having no regard for himself or anything other than winning the ball. Monaghan owe him a big 20 minutes. And of course, they owe him a big 20 years. More like that's what it feels like, how long this fella has been soldiering on for the Farney Army. And I mean, the reality is Darren Hughes is a legend, but he's also the type of player that he doesn't do flashy stuff. So a lot of players like that don't get the credit that they deserve. And I hope that Darren Hughes does get the credit that he deserves, because he has literally given blood, sweat and tears and everything that he has in the locker to Monaghan over the years. And as Cara O'Kane says, like, it is kind of a testament to him that that's how he gets injured, because he threw himself at the ball, pulls a bad old injury in his leg, and best wishes to him. He's in the hospital now, so like best wishes to Darren Hughes. Hopefully he is okay. But Cavan did go on to win that game. If you're tweeting here from John McMahon, my good friend, the JMac podcast, give him a follow. Great channel. He says, great win down in Clonus. A much improved second half from Cavan. Had a proper go. Lynch, Jerry, Gunnar, Faulkner and Holla, all immense. Always nice to put one over the neighbours. Lots of work to do for Tyrone. And my God, it's time we beat them up the Blues. And that's it. Like, when Cavan will be going into that game, look, Tyrone have been inconsistent. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Cavan could beat Tyrone. I do make Tyrone definite favourites, but Tyrone have had inconsistent performances, namely against Derry, against Dublin, they were awful, and against Galway, they were poor as well. So the fact that Cavan have them at home, Cavan will be slightly confident that they might be able to pull off an upset here. And look, they're staying away from Derry and Donegal at least until the next round, if they manage to get over Tyrone. So for Cavan and Raymond Galligan, you got nothing to lose. And Paddy Lynch spoke to the GA social at the end of the game, and he was just saying, look, if we bring the intensity, I think we're a match for every team. If we don't, then we're very ordinary. So it's very, very interesting to hear him say that. And very interested to watch that game. Now, definitely one of the shocks of the weekend was that Waterford got their first championship victory since 2010, and with a new manager in charge. Tommy Rooney says here, the Waterford footballers have just secured their first Munster Senior Football Championship win since 2010. Tom O'Connell burying 2 late goals as they defeat Tipperary by 2-7 to 1-5. A 1999 All-Ireland winner with Meath, Paul Shanky, with a huge win in his first season in the job. And like, across the weekend, you have to look at it for what it is. This win is one of the most important wins pound for pound across the weekend, because when you're Waterford, and for years now you've been dead last, rooted to the bottom of the Alliance Football League in Division 4, and on top of that, you're getting knocked out in the championship at the first round every time. And an article came out, and I think it was in the 42, said nobody gives them a chance any time that they go out. And so for them to get victories is so important, because it just gives a bit of life into the county and makes them believe that they can pull something off. Because if there's no belief there, then it's very, very hard to get players to commit. And that's why a victory like that, while are they going to beat Clare in the next round? Like, most likely not. Clare will beat them, I think, in the next round. But they are 70 minutes away from Sam Maguire football, which is absolutely extraordinary. Could you imagine if they pulled it off? I don't think they will. But best wishes to them. Matthew Hurley, my good friend here, the Gaelic Statsman, he says, what a result for Waterford. They've beaten the 2020 Munster champions. Congratulations to all involved. And I mean, that sums up as well Tipperary, how far they've fallen. And I mean, it's an entirely different team. When I looked on the Score BO app, obviously big shout out to that. Fantastic app. Like, when you're looking at that, it's just not the same team. Everybody's gone. There's no Michael Quinlivan anymore. There's no Colin O'Riordan anymore. There's no Robbie Kiley anymore. Like, the team is so different to what it was. And that's why it's not a big shock that they're losing these games. It's a big shock for Waterford that they've managed to get the win. But Tipperary very much are in a mess. And it's very hard to see how they are going to be able to pull themselves back. And then this was a brilliant interview here. Cormac O'Malley says, God bless the lads that aren't media trained. Off the ball, of course, did an interview with with Caoimhín Walsh. Owen Sheehan did the interview. Following their side's first championship win since 2010 in the Munster Championship. So he says, there's so much football people in Waterford. This is a turning point in the year. There were two of the quotes that he said there. And I mean, if you're a Déise footballer, like the training heading into the Clare game, they've got nothing to lose. And if they win, they are unbelievably in the Sam Maguire Cup over Westmeath potentially. So it's absolutely extraordinary that they could be able to do this over Westmeath and Down. I think that they would take their places. Absolutely magical. And that's the magic that we love in the championship. Colin Parkinson's next tweet in here says, Galway 15 points up on London, but they had a gale. Tough on London having to play a Division 1 team. They should enter New York. They should play New York every year, and the winner enters the Connacht Championship. There's an idea there from Colin, definitely. Like, I mean, there's an idea from Aaron Prendergast as well, the man behind Gaelic Games Fan TV. Obviously, big shout out to him. He was just talking about why aren't provincial championships seeded? Like, when you make it seeded, you give teams a much better chance of actually getting the victory, because having London go up and play against Galway, there's no point in that. You're just condemning 15 lads to an absolute thrashing. And like, we all knew it. We knew Galway were going to beat them by whatever they wanted to beat them by. And they did. So why do we do that every year? We do it every year. It's not the best structure, in my opinion. Like, I'm not pointing out anything that nobody's been talking about before. It needs to change. It's overdue a change. Hopefully it does change. But then some of the magic of the provincial championships is, has been seen in Leinster. Wicklow beating Westmeath. Thomas Niblock here says McConville will be on the bear. What a result for Wicklow. Absolutely extraordinary. And that's the thing, is that Westmeath, Division 3 champions, beaten next week by Wicklow, a side who are relegated down to Division 4. It's absolutely extraordinary. Anthony Masterson's tweet in here, big wins for Wexford and Wicklow in the Leinster Football Championship. It's like the good old days. Wexford were ruthless in their game against Carlow. They absolutely hammered them. They put 4-19 on them to Carlow's 8 points. They really, really justified their favourites tag. And Lee Keegan tweets here, don't believe we will get many results like we did today, but isn't it brilliant when the underdogs spoil the party? And that's it. Everybody's always rooting for the underdog. And to see Waterford beat Tipperary, to see Cavan beat Monaghan, to see Wicklow beat Westmeath, it did put a smile on people's faces, because that doesn't usually happen. Usually the favourites win for a reason. But a lot of people believe that the Westmeath victory, as good as Wicklow were and as good as they played, a lot of people believe that it would have came about in large part due to the fact that Westmeath were fresh off the back of a league final, and a victorious league final where they poured so much of themselves into winning that game. Leitrim were the same. They were fresh off a hammering in the league final off Laois, couldn't recover in time, lost comfortably to Sligo. And Andy Moran has quoted some pretty strong quotes. He said here, Tom Parsons is a good friend of mine, but what they are doing to players at the minute is absolutely insane. So that tweet from Maurice Brosnan. So Andy Moran taking aim at the GA and GPA earlier today. Look, taking aim, harsh enough words to use, but like, he's right. What they're doing in terms of like the condensed calendar, there's no break. It's very much like such an outrageous schedule for the players to stick to. Condensed schedule with no breaks equals injuries. How many players are injured now? And it's just like, giving a little bit more space to the players would be the perfect, balance to it. Get rid of the preseason competitions, move the leagues back, give a few weeks in between the league and championship in April, please, because the players can't keep up at this pace. That's why they're dropping like flies. It's not fair to ask them to do that. And it's actually bad for promotion as well, because you don't get, the build-up. UFC do their countdown shows, boxing do their 40 days out show, the World Cup does countdown to the World Cup, the Premier League does pre-season promos. The GA does none of that because we have no time. The league finished. The league still wasn't finished by the time the GA Championship kicked off. It's something that we should definitely take a leaf out of other competitions' books when it comes to this. Moving on then to the LGFA League finals. So the 4 finals took place over this weekend. You can see there all 4 league champions. Division 4 was won by Carlow. Division 3 was won by Clare. Division 2 was won by Kildare. And Division 1 was won by Armagh. Armagh obviously winning their first ever Division 1 league title. Carlow surprising the odds there in Division 4 by beating Limerick. Clare were the definite favourites in Division 3 from the get-go, and Ailish Considine, who obviously returned from the AFLW, was massive in that victory. Division 2, Kildare have proved to be too good. They're on a one-way ticket out of Division 2 right from the get-go, and they beat Tyrone in that final. Maria Canavan was fantastic for Tyrone, but the likes of Roisin, Byrne, Ellen Dowling all to the fore in that Kildare victory. Armagh, on the other hand, in Division 1, absolutely fantastic performance, and, no prizes for guessing who the key player was in that victory. Amy Mackin, absolutely extraordinary here. Dermot Carney says, death taxes and Amy Mackin scoring for Armagh. You knew it would happen, but to score 1-4 in a matter of minutes and completely floor a team in doing so was incredible. Amy Mackin, obviously just back from the AFLW, straight back into the Armagh team. And as I've said on previous shows, she comes back, Armagh start winning. She's an unbelievable footballer, and I genuinely think one of the best in the country. She combined really, really prominently with Kelly Mallon. Between them, they hit 1-9 as Armagh won their first ever Division 1 title in Croke Park earlier this afternoon. That's from Belfast Live Sport, a live tweet there. So it's an awesome win for Armagh. And the thing is, we've been waiting for Armagh to turn their undoubted talent into a genuine All-Ireland push. They look this year like they have the minerals to do it. Amy Mackin being back, Kelly Mallon on form, Aoife McCoy in there, Claudia McCambridge, Lauren McConville, Grace Ferguson at the back, Anna Carr is a very solid goalkeeper, Niamh Coleman, Caroline O'Hanlon. They've a brilliant team. And if they can get Blaugeen Mackin back, they're going to take some stopping, no question about it. The only team that's had their number so far is Dublin, but Armagh dropped the entire team for that game. So maybe Armagh are the best team in the country, and maybe it's between themselves, Dublin, Kerry, maybe Meath, you could argue, as to who wins the All-Ireland this season. Absolutely fascinating to watch. And then there was a feel-good story as well in the Division 4 final. I'm shocked myself, a quote there. 17-year-old Maeve O'Neill becomes the Carlow LGFA hero again today, scoring the late winning goal in the Division 4 final against Limerick. So she spoke to Jerome Quinn after the game in Birr. Jerome Quinn obviously does Trojan work for the LGFA coverage. Massive shout out to him. Like, what a wonderful story there for Maeve. 17 years of age, scored a winning goal in the league final. Absolutely extraordinary. And Carlow did upset the odds. I couldn't believe it when Leitrim and Fermanagh were both beaten. Myself and Matthew thought that was 100% going to be the league final. Leitrim had been ripping teams to shreds. Fermanagh have players like Blaugeen, Bogue, Emer, Smith, Brenda Bannon. You thought there was no way that they weren't going to make it. And yet Carlow, upset the odds not once but twice and win the Division 4 title. So absolutely fair play to them. Then, of course, Mayo took on New York this weekend. This is from Times Square. Now, as someone who lives in Dublin, I know full well that whenever Mayo have a game on in Croke Park, they take over the streets of Dublin, but they've taken over Times Square as well over in New York. The amount of green and red that you see there as Mayo then went on to beat New York in that opening round of the Connacht Championship. So they will face off against Roscommon in the next round. That will be very, very interesting to watch. Those games against New York are always good, but Mayo are always going to be too strong in that. And before we do move off this episode, let's look at the team of the week from round 1 of the championship. So in goal there, Christopher Kelly from Cork. Fullback, Queeveen Walsh, who did the interview with Off the Ball. He's at 3. Nathan Mullen, left cornerback. Pádraig Faulkner, right cornerback. Luke Fahey, Dean Healy and Johnny Heaney, the half-back line there. Fahey from Cork, Healy from Wicklow and Heaney from Galway. Midfield, Canis Mulligan from Sligo, of course, the under-20 star, moving up to senior, scoring 2 points from midfield as they beat Leitrim. And Paul Conroy alongside him, who scored heavily against London from midfield. Ryan O'Donoghue from Mayo at centre forward. He was on red hot form against New York. Mark Rossiter of Wexford at left half forward. He ripped through Carlow with 2-2. Chris O'Jones at right half forward as well, scored the first goal for Cork. He's on the right. Paddy Lynch, of course, at 1-9 against Monaghan as right corner forward. Tom O'Connell, who scored both goals in Waterford's infamous victory over Tipperary. And James Conlon, top of the left, who led the way for the Royal County as they beat Longford. That completes the first team of the week for the GAA Championship in 2024 on the men's football side. So yeah, that has been episode 9 of Social Media Reacts, guys. This episode once again was brought to you by Capture Athletics. My name is Seamus Brady. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Get involved with the comments below. Make sure to stay tuned for our weekend preview, which will come out on Wednesday. And until the next episode, guys, here on Cluiche, Torara.